Pakistan. Some of them are working. On the kinetic options, India is playing the waiting game. And this uncertainty is making Pakistan very, very, very anxious. Today you have a situation, viewers, where some of its top leaders, its most visible faces, most recognizable in the international community, are beginning to very quickly pivot and say that, look, yes, we've had a role in the past in exporting terror, this, that, the other, but you see, we're not behind this one. We will help you out. We will investigate this. We'll get to the bottom of it. But let's be conscious of not crossing the Rubicon. Let's not attack each other because there'll be consequences. And as it is trying to come to terms, viewers, with an inevitable response from India, kinetic response, Pakistan is deploying its soldiers and its munitions, which of course is a very, very costly affair for a broke economy. Every day that Pakistan deploys its warships, it conducts Air Force fighter jet drills. It moves its soldiers to the front lines or moves them to other vulnerable parts. It incurs a cost. Mobilization is costly, very costly. And without even firing a bullet, viewers, we are therefore imposing costs. But it has to do this, it has no choice, because India is readying its response. Viewers, it's been 10 days, as I told you, exact number of days after the Uri strike in 2016 when India retorted. And you know what we did. Same number of days, viewers, give or take 24 hours, India responded in Balakot after Pulwama. So this is that corridor. Even as we speak, who knows, viewers? We might be actually on the verge. I can't say. But what I can tell you, viewers, and you can see those pictures in the middle of your screens, India today flexed its air power muscles. A raft of top-of-the-line fighter jets participated in a crucial trial to assess 3.5-kilometer long strip of the Ganga Expressway's potential as an alternative runway during national emergencies. You have to have a wide number of options from where your planes can take off. But I can tell you, viewers, that in a conflict, that's exactly what you will be looking at. To target aircraft as they're about to take off from marked airfields. So it's always good to keep the Pakistanis guessing about where the fighter jets will suddenly be deployed, where they will take off and land. Just about every imaginable Indian fighter aircraft was on display, from the Rafale, you can see some of those, viewers, to the Sukhoi, the Mirage 2000, the MiG-29, the Jaguar, the C-130J Super Hercules, which is a massive cargo plane, logistics plane, AN-32, and the Mi-17 V5 helicopter. All, viewers, why the landing, taking off, making use of that expressway. But as the world waits for Prime Minister Modi to follow up on his "there will be unimaginable punishment" vow, a whole ecosystem has leapt out to advocate for dialing down and reposing faith in diplomacy. So viewers, whether it is in the newsrooms of The Economist, The Washington Post, The New York Times, or viewers, here in our country, there is a concerted effort to try and get India to back down. In fact, the ecosystem goes after anyone who backs military measures against Pakistan. They play the Pakistan is a nuclear weapon state card. And they conveniently forget that India too is a nuclear weapon state. But that does nothing to stop Pakistan from bleeding us like it did when it occupied Indian land in Kargil in 1999. In fact, Pakistan has continued. It has continued to bleed India. Look at those pictures from Pahalgam. That was just the latest. Despite India carrying out the 2016 surgical strikes following the Uri attack and the 2019 Balakot air raid in response to the Pulwama attack, and those are pictures to your right, viewers, we thought these operations were significant because they signal India is willing to cross the line of control and strike terror infrastructure directly in POK or where it hurts Pakistan. Yet, viewers, these strikes haven't helped. And it is for this reason that many are today advocating escalation. Deterrent, by definition, must prevent the recurrence of a provocation. Pakistan must never dare to target us. And clearly, on that metric, surgical strikes and air raids have had limited deterrent success. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had Pahalgam. So we obviously need to go further, which prompts the question, and this is a big one: is there any getting away from visible kinetic action to deter Pakistan? We all might want to believe that there are other ways, but is this the most effective? And let me open this up, viewers, because we can have an honest conversation, an intelligent one, with some of our panelists tonight. I am deliberately not calling Pakistanis here and having shout fests and giving them a platform to abuse India and so on and so forth. Because right now, let me tell you, viewers, the only trade that is going on between India and Pakistan is on news channels and in news media that are inviting these Pak coots to yell and scream and insult. But I'm not going there, viewers. We're going to speak and we're going to try and work out things. And I want to begin with Sushant Sareen. Sushant Sareen, look, we know that this is bound to happen. The United States, everyone will pop up, China, etc. They'll all say, look, perhaps you guys should settle it amongst yourselves, cooperate a little bit, identify certain targets, but don't let this escalate, as everyone is saying. But is there getting away from a kinetic option? A lot of Indians want to know this. Can we get away by saying, okay, let's defer all of those, let's even forget them, take them off, but we can still punish Pakistan, there is a way?
Rahul, I am very clear in my mind that the non-kinetic options are extremely important, useful, but they are not necessary. They are necessary but not sufficient. You have to have a kinetic response simply because deterrence has broken down. The Pakistanis think that, okay, fine, there's no trade between India, we have damaged India by blocking our airspace, big deal if the Indians don't want to deal with us, no skin off our nose. Diplomatically, what will the Indians do? For example, all that the Indians have got is, virtue signaling from the West and so-called friends of India. Nothing more than that. There is no pressure on us. Nobody is really blaming us. So we can brazen it out. And we have our own friends who are backing us completely. So, while we will have to take non-kinetic steps like the Indus Waters Treaty, a whole range of other options which are available and have not yet been exercised, I think the kinetic response is unavoidable as far as I'm concerned. Now, of course, a kinetic response is not a video game. It's not something that you can do lightly. And, these comparisons which we very often make between Israel and Palestine and, US doing something, the power differentials in those cases, the capability differences are vastly different from what is there between India and Pakistan. Okay. So we need to move forward. We need to hit. We need to also be aware that if the Pakistanis retaliate, as they are threatening to do, then there will be certain costs and risks attached to whatever action we take. Now, we have to prepare our public, we have to prepare our politicians, we have to prepare our nation for doing that action. But I am very clear about one thing. You will have to re-establish deterrence where the Pakistanis know that there is a very, very heavy price to be paid in lives, in material, in treasure, for carrying out the kind of attacks they carried out in Pahalgam and the attacks they've carried out earlier. So there is, I'm sorry, no way out but from taking a kinetic action.
But let me ask you this, because you use the word very heavy price. Now, clearly, this necessitates us going beyond the thresholds that we've already established with Pakistan, which is that we used airstrikes like the Balakot kind of airstrike, or we went across the LOC into POK and we took out a terror launch pad, etc., etc. So clearly, this heavy price that we need to extract must be of a different quality. Now, many people will say, these people on television, sitting in their studios, air-conditioned studios, they're warmonger, they're jingoistic, they have no sense, they have no idea. And there are some in your strategic community who laugh at this prospect. How would you respond to those people, Sushant?
So, two things. One, I would ask them that whatever they have suggested and which we have followed over the last 80 years, please tell me what good that has done. How has that changed Pakistan's behavior? Has that knocked any sense into Pakistan's head? All this Pappi Jappi Mombatti brigade, which used to go to Vaga and do all kinds of stupid dances and stuff with these fellows, what have you achieved? Please tell us. Give me an account of that. Give me an account of this goddamn stupid people-to-people diplomacy that everybody was talking about. Please give me an audit of what that has achieved. And I can tell you, there is damn all it has achieved. Number one. So I would dismiss them with the kind of contempt these third-rate people deserve. On the second issue, look, I agree. We did coercive diplomacy during Parakram. It had an impact up to a point in time, after which its effects wore off. We did Uri, it had brought some peace for about maybe 2 years, effect wore off. You did Balakot, but you did not follow through after the Pakistanis retaliated. We should have gone up the escalation ladder. Even so, we broke new ground, but a kind of deterrence was established. But the Pakistanis always had the boasting rights to say, yeah, you came in, you did something, and we came back and we hit you also. So there was a kind of a balance established. Now, clearly, that also worked for a few years. Now, obviously, you need to do something more. But please remember, no matter what you do, it is not as though what you do today will now bring you peace forever.
No, obviously.
It will impact for a period of time, and you will have to continue doing these kind of operations and till eternity or till Pakistan survives.
So let's talk a little bit about the quality of the response then, the deterrence that we need to establish. And Ayyar Mitra, let me bring you in. What should be the quality? If we want to go beyond the two kinetic options that we exercised in the years earlier, what would they be in your mind?
Rahul, they themselves in the late 2000s told us what their thresholds are.
Sorry, who are the they? Sorry, just
the Pakistanis.
The Pakistanis. Okay.
There was a gentleman called Rashid Kidwai who ran their Strategic Forces Command, and he put out 4 thresholds after which Pakistan would go nuclear. Right. The first was the spatial threshold, which is depending how much territory of theirs you take. The second was the military threshold, depending on how much of their military you destroy. The third was the economic threshold, depending on how much of their economy you destroy. The fourth was the water threshold, depending on how much water you withhold. Now, he talked about withholding water. He never talked about flooding them with water. Flooding can achieve just as much destruction as withholding. And we are doing that willy-nilly. Even playing around with the water. Now, see, they didn't say playing around with the water. They said withholding water. So we're playing around with the water. We've already destroyed about 5 to 7% of their kharif crop, the wheat and mustard and methi, fenugreek. Fenugreek is a very important cash crop of theirs. The mustard, Punjabis and mustard oil, and Punjabis and wheat, right? So you're hitting them where it hurts. The second one is the economy. Now, when we say economy, you see it's kind of like the economy of Gumidi Pundi or some secondary city in India, really, the Pakistan economy. It's not much of an economy. If you notice, the rupee has been very stable. Do you know why? Because $50 million a week is enough to stabilize the rupee. It is such a small, pathetic this thing. And who buys the rupee anyway? So it's one of those things. Now, destroying their economy isn't a big deal. You can do it in a lot of ways. Just this week, we have destroyed the entire content creator economy of Pakistan. It turns out that all these Pakistani content creators, 90 to 95% of their views were coming from India.
Yes.
So you go to the before and after of their things, it's been destroyed. And the way they used to, come on, they very strategically place pro-India messages to then start getting invites from India, get close to Indian content creators.
But those are now the options that we are not concerned with. I mean, of course, they are a panoply of options.
Now, kinetic options.
Yeah.
See, why should you go in kinetically immediately? Why can't you sit and let them stew over this? Because honestly, if you keep playing havoc with the Indus waters, you can destroy them in 2-3 years, they'll be finished. Agriculture, understand, it is the zamindar, industrialist, military thing, and the power there comes from ownership of land. Now, the kinetic options, the ministers have assured us, Amit Shah has assured us, and the Prime Minister have assured us it's going to happen. It is, in my opinion, much better if you wait for about 2-3 months where things really start hurting. See, we can afford $10 billion a month on a mobilization, on a dynamic mobilization, not a static mobilization like Operation Parakram, but a dynamic one like we're doing right now. Send the aircraft carrier near Karachi, get it back. Send destroyers near Karachi, get it back. Deploy 2 armored brigades on the border for 48 hours, get it back. No problem. We can manage $10 billion a month. For them, $10 billion is their annual budget.
Okay. So you're saying that time
is in our favor.
Okay.
I personally feel that they're going to go in, you can bring them to the point of such desperation that they may even go in for a kamikaze, a 1971 style stupid strike, preemptive strike.
And that sort of opens then the floodgates because it gives you...
Because they believe that the only chance is in a short, sharp war.
Okay, so let's open this up. Let me bring in Major Arya. Colonel Dini is also there. Major Arya, look, a lot has been said by our own leadership. Many people are saying, oh, we walked into a trap, expectation trap. This is what a large number of commentators are saying. And therefore, war is now inevitable. In fact, war, because we've talked up the prospects, if we now don't act, we will look weak. And there are also many strategists who say that war is inevitable to restore deterrence, and we have to start accepting it. Do you agree?
No, I very strongly disagree because non-kinetic actions against Pakistan have never sufficed, and there is this long history of Pakistan's infractions. Whether you look at the 1947 invasion, you must understand one thing, and this I say to those people who say that non-kinetic actions would suffice, is that Pakistan is essentially a militarized state. It's a security state where army holds the sway. And which army understands the language of peace? Which army understands the language of diplomacy? If you want to address the Pakistan army, it must be through force. I'm not saying this is the only option which we should exercise. No, absolutely not. But this should be the primary option. And going ahead, we can also exercise economic, diplomatic, and political pressure on Pakistan, media pressure on Pakistan. But no, you cannot discount military pressure because this is what actually pressurizes Pakistan.
No, so you've said primary, if I might just butt in, you said primary option. Now, do you think that if that were the case, war is the next most obvious direction in which we are heading, or option to restore deterrence?
I don't think it's an all-out war, because when you say war, you're talking about multiple fronts. You're talking about the Army, Navy, and Air Force in action. I'm talking about punitive strikes against Pakistan. So there is a nuclear threshold that has to be taken into consideration, and there is space for limited war. And I quote General Malik, former Chief of Army Staff, who wrote very eloquently that space exists under the nuclear threshold for a limited war with Pakistan. This is what he said, and I strongly believe that this statement. So what we should do is, like for example, Kargil was a limited war. It didn't go all out. It was a limited war, geographically limited. So this is what we need to do. Perhaps have some sort of a solid confrontation with Pakistan where they suffer heavy losses and then occupy land that they have illegally occupied.
Occupy land.
I think that will send home the message, because otherwise, non-kinetic options, they're like add-ons.
Okay.
I don't think the primary concern should be non-kinetic options, though they are certainly there on the table.
No, so just a minute. You're saying occupy land. Now there are people who've just said in India, who've said not just घर में घुसकर मारना पड़ेगा, but वहाँ बैठ भी जाना पड़ेगा. But is this too risky, Major Arya, or is this actually the best way to straighten out Pakistan? Because then you tell them that, look, for every cut to inflict, we'll take a, like salami slicing the Chinese do, we'll take a little bit of your territory. So that's the one way of sort of really driving home the point. Is that what you're saying?
Everything is risky, and everything worth having in this world comes with a little bit of danger and risk, and that's absolutely okay. We are not at a state of war with Pakistan. At least on 22nd of April, we were not in a state of war with Pakistan. They killed 27 Indians, and they will continue to do so. So absence of war does not mean peace, right? We were not in a state of war when 26/11 happened. We were not in a state of war with Pakistan when the 1993 Mumbai bomb blast happened, and so on and so forth. I can give you 20 other examples. So you see, thinking that Indians will only die or we'll only suffer casualties when we are in a state of war with Pakistan, I think this is not correct thinking. We anyway suffer casualties, and if we need to send home a message to Pakistan, as we discussed today, the action needs to be punitive. It needs to be visible, and it needs to be disproportionate. Otherwise, this Pahalgam, incidents like Pahalgam, terror attacks like Pahalgam will happen again and again.
Okay, Colonel Dini, we need visible action. In fact, Major Arya is even advocating that we embark upon salami slicing, taking over portions of land, and that will not really cost us much. That's what he's saying. Do you advocate that? And I want the views of others also on this.
Rahul, I just want to add one point that, it is not a question of deterrence alone that why we should go for a kinetic operation.
Okay.
It is also, it is the collective conscience of our country has been affected. So to restore faith in the idea of India by the Indians, a kinetic action is necessary. It's visible. It has to be there. That is the first thing. Deterrence, yes, of course, kinetic means like what Sushant was saying, in 2019 we did something and in about 6 years it held. But that is probably not the case right now. Although I would, of course, Major Gaurav has a point that, you do a salami slice. That is one option. I also believe that, under not even the threshold of nuclear, in the threshold of the conventional war, below the conventional war, there are multiple options available in which the Pakistan army can be hit. And it need not be a one-time hit. It has to be done in a periodical manner for a very long time. And let's also remember...
Now, what are you talking about? Illustrate your point with a couple of examples.
My point is that why should we only focus on POK? Why not focus on Balochistan? Why not focus on other parts of Pakistan also, where these kind of operations can be done? It's not that as if we don't have the range or we don't have the kind of things which the equipment or the wherewithal to do it. So what I am suggesting is that it has to be at the Pakistan army, so that for two reasons. One, they know that they will be hit, and secondly, the greatest thing for Pakistan army is their own izzat, which they feel, especially the generals of Pakistan army. As it is, their respect in Pakistan society is absolutely down now. If you hit them more, and if they know that they are not able to do protect themselves, then I think it will cause a deterrent. It could be from the highest level to middle level officers, whomsoever it has to be targeted. That can be done. That will.
So you're suggesting we do something that Israel did to Iran, basically taking out some big commanders, etc., etc. Let me get Sushant Sareen and Mr. Iyer Mitra's views on this. Sushant Sareen, you go first on the comments you've heard.
Look, we can all have our own opinions on what needs to be done. I would probably tend to go along more with what Abhijit was saying, that yes, which does not mean that we are not going to take kinetic action. But I don't see why we need to be in a rush to take it. We should first probably exhaust them. Forget 2 armored brigades. Why not 4 armored brigades being moving?
Okay, but what do you mean exhaust? First, let's talk a little bit in quantifiable terms. Is it very expensive to deploy? If it is, how expensive on an average is it to deploy? How many days can they actually continue to fuel their whatever they have?
So it is a very expensive proposition when you are going into a kind of a war preparation mode. It is a very expensive amount of thing. It's not a normal military exercise or normal deployments. This is an active deployment situation. And the other party is keeping you unsettled. You don't know where the next attack is going to come from. Is it going to come from ground, air? Will it be drones? Will it be missiles? What will it be? Will it be from the sea? Will it be subsea? You don't know. You don't know nothing, right? So the other guy is constantly on the tenterhooks as to where we will attack them. Attack we will. Question is when. Maybe it can happen tonight. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen a week from now. Maybe it can happen 2 months from now. Maybe it'll happen in the winter. But we keep them on the tenterhooks. So yes, that is one way of doing this thing. The second thing is, look, the point is we have to understand that and while I agree in principle what Colonel Denny is saying or what Gaurav has said, I don't have any issues on the principle of what they are saying. But I think we need to also be a little realistic. Pakistan is also very desperate regime. It's a Islamic fundamentalist state with an Islamic fanatical regime, which is both the political party as well as the military. The military, very little to choose between ISI and ISIS. So, frankly speaking, when you're talking about these guys, they are also going to be desperate because they know that if you are going to rub their nose in the dust, then.
So, are you saying that not much space exists under the nuclear threshold to escalate, or even the sub-conventional threshold is also extremely low? Are you saying that? I mean, what are you saying?
No, I'm not saying that the sub-conventional level, we'll certainly be, there'll be tit for tat exchanges. And then there'll be a graded response. We will also have to decide, like we should have decided after Balakot that we are going to go in for the next round of exchanges. We decided we did not. So, but I think we need to also be prepared to go up the escalation ladder and be prepared that there'll be certain costs.
Okay, so let me bring in.
Yeah, just give me half a second more. If we are willing to do that, there's no problem in it. But the issue is that we also have to be realistic enough to understand that the Pakistanis are not Palestine. Yeah, they're not a third-rate organization like Hamas. Okay. It is an army it's a standing army with the kind of wherewithal and with a lot more international support than Hamas had. Okay. And comparison between Iran and Israel and India and Pakistan, again, I don't think that comparison really fits the bill because the situation is vastly different between the two countries.
Okay, those are important points, viewers, to keep in the back of your head. Mr. Iyer Mitra, let me push you on this. The costs of basically sustaining the pressure without going for a kinetic option on Pakistan, how much is it? What is the rough cost of deployment that the Pakistani state will have to sort of take on a daily basis or whatever, weekly basis or what have you? Do we have any numbers?
So remember, first of all, I didn't say no kinetic option. I said prolong your non-kinetic as long as possible. And the simple example of this is what Mrs. Indira Gandhi did in 71. We got 10 million refugees by August itself. We had about 10 million refugees. She waited and it was a crippling burden on us. Today's Indians don't realize we were a very poor country then. It was bankrupting us. She still absorbed the cost because she wanted to weaken the Pakistanis. She waited for 6 months and decided to do the deed in December, when snow blocked the passes in the Himalayas and the Chinese couldn't intervene to support their Pakistani friends. And we took over Bangladesh in 10-12 days, which was extraordinarily decisive. Because what had happened by that time was we were supporting the Mukti Bahini and they had completely destroyed the Pakistan army's will to resist in what was then East Pakistan. Now, let us look at Pakistan today. They have $15 billion in reserve. Somewhere between 7 to 10 billion is co-owned reserves with Saudi Arabia, the Emirates and things. They can't just withdraw it willy-nilly. So assume best case scenario, they've got $7 billion. There it costs about $1.35 billion per week to run their economy. $72 billion a year, you divide that by 52 weeks, it comes to about 1.35 billion. You start doing the same kind of things, a fluid operation Parakram, so to say, a la 2001, 2002. You double that cost to about $3 billion. And there's a reason for it. Tanks and aircraft, they are not like your Suzuki Ertiga or Toyota Innova, which you take out every day. You start doing things like that, daily use with them, their lifespan comes down drastically. I don't think people realize, but pushing a tank through the soft soil of the Rajasthan desert will destroy your tank in about 100, 150, 200 kilometers if you push it too fast. Right? There are all kinds of things that happen with these tanks and things like that. They have to be intensively maintained, the aircraft, things
Now, some
like
of these
that.
are Chinese, which have not really been tested either, isn't it?
They're not been tested, and we don't know how they'll work out in the battlefield. Irrespective, they are not things that you just put out in the field and treat like some, Isuzu truck or things like that. So the cost goes up exponentially. Now, imagine a country with about $7 billion of available reserves. Week on week, forcing it to double its expenditure from 1.35 to about $3 billion. What kind of an effect do you think it has? Pushing the Pakistani rupee over, what kind of an effect do you think it has? There are so many things that can be done out here, which act as force multipliers for your military if and when the military decides to go in. Besides, there is no rule saying that you have to attack within 10-15 days. Quite the contrary. And I have to keep explaining proportionality and retaliation to people. Retaliation is not meant to be revenge. Revenge is illegal in international law. Proportionality means you have chosen to deter them. This should not be wrapped up in the language of illegal revenge. It needs to be wrapped up in the language of proportionality in deterrence, which means you can deter even 6 months down the line, but hit them so hard.
But the point...
Quickly, just 10 seconds more. You see, the thing is, everybody may say, oh, Pulwama mein kya hua? You can go to the Wikipedia page of Pulwama, Balakot, and they've completely, Wikipedia has divorced it from Pulwama. You will think if you go to the Wikipedia page that India didn't hit anything, it only killed some crows and whatever. But when did that attack happen? 2019. It brought 6 years of peace.
Yeah.
Now you tell me that isn't deterrence.
No, I mean that is fundamentally it is not enough, but yes, it is. Not enough. Okay, but remember, but I like. Okay, I think the consensus that we've come away with is not really of if, but when. I think that's important. That's the real takeaway. So, viewers, look, no one should be able to tell you that those who are advocating for maybe even a staggered kinetic option are being warmongers. I think we've now explained why that is necessary. Use your other means to soften the Pakistani state to the point where it's pliable enough for you to mess with. And therefore, at that time, you can perhaps use the kinetic option. Maybe you won't even need to escalate that far to achieve your end. So, all of us have agreed that yes, kinetic option is required. It's only a matter of when we decide upon that. Now viewers, visible kinetic action may be one way of restoring the fear of deterrence in Pakistan. But so far, India has played the waiting game. Yes, as you can see on this map prepared by a defense analyst, there are a lot of cross-LOC ceasefire violations taking place, mostly on account of Pakistan troops using small arms to target larger Indian posts. The fact is that despite Prime Minister Modi's stirring and resolute words, India has not resorted to any visible escalatory kinetic action. 10 days have passed and many of you must be wondering, what's holding us back? This is a legitimate question, but apart from this question, perhaps we should also be asking whether there is an inherent strength in India's kinetic restraint. And let's put these questions out to Colonel S. Dini, former CEO, Infantry Battalion, Pangong So area, Lieutenant General retired KGS Dhillon, former GOC 15 Corps of the Northern Command, and Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor, former DG Safety and Instructions of the IF. So let me first begin with you, General Dhillon. This is curious. 10 days have passed. We're playing the waiting game. First, I want to ask you, is playing the waiting game giving, perhaps in some ways, giving up the advantage of surprise?
Thank you, Rahul, and good evening to the fellow panelists and good evening to all your viewers. India is taking its time, and on social media, I find a lot of Indians very anxious as to why we are not going in, why we are not doing anything. I'll just say that nations and militaries don't respond in a hurry, they don't respond on emotions, and they don't respond just because there is a pressure to respond immediately. When nations and the militaries respond, it's a comprehensive national power this time which is going to be applied against Pakistan. In the earlier occasion, in 2016, surgical strikes, it was only the army. 2019, Balakot air strikes, it was only the Air Force. This time, the diplomatic initiatives have also been listed out so far. Few more maybe in the pipeline. There will be economic options, there will be political, and there will be some options we don't talk about, plus the military options. Now, to do all these things, the world opinion will have to be made. And a lot of diplomatic efforts are going on as of now. We see now JS going to Afghanistan also, talking to Taliban. So this is going to take time. And just to put in context, so that the viewers understand, when your daughter gets engaged to be married, you have to cater for 100 to 150 guests and a small ceremony. How much time do you take to coordinate those things? Now here, a nation is going to carry out a response at a national level where whole world is looking at us. So let's not be impatient. Waiting game is in India's favor. Pakistan is already showing signs of nervousness, and all these small arms ceasefire violations along the line of control which you have indicated on the map, some of them are genuine ceasefire violations of small arms to raise the morale of their troops. That means the moral ascendancy on the line of control is very important. And I can vouch for it. There are 50 to 60% of them are panic fires. कि शायद हिंदुस्तानी आ गए, शायद इंडियन आर्मी आ गई हमारी पोस्ट के ऊपर. So they fire in anticipation, anticipatory fire. Whichever is the likely route of approach from the Indian side, fire every 2-3 hours, 2-3 bursts or 2-3 magazines on that. So there is a nervousness, there is panic at all levels, from lower levels of military. See, how many of us knew the name of the Pakistani defense minister till about 7 days ago? Now only the defense minister is coming on the television, and Asim Munir is in the hiding for last 9 days.
But when you say there's panic, what do you mean? What are the symptoms? I'm not seeing any panic. Many Indians are saying they're not seeing any panic. They're only seeing, as you said, belligerent responses from Pakistan. आप इधर आओगे तो हम nuclear चला देंगे. We will do this, we will do that. That's what they're saying that we are hearing.
That's exactly what the panic is. कि आप आओगे तो हम nuclear चला देंगे. Do you remember Lieutenant General A.K. Niazi speaking to BBC one day prior to surrender in Dhaka? His language is exactly the same जो आज पाकिस्तानी बोल रहे हैं. No, we are not going to fight, we are going to fight here, we are not going to surrender, this, that, with very loaded accent. And next day he was signing a very document of surrender, sitting with the General Arora, and in the evening he was having scotch in Indian mess. So there is panic. There is panic about Indus Water Treaty, there is panic about what India can do, and there is hardly any country in the world which is aligning with Pakistan. Okay. All these airspace have been put out of bound, because they feel India can use the airspace again. So all these are signs of panic. And on the line of control, there is a commanding officer on the panel. He would tell you these panic fires by the opposing side on the line of control is a very routine thing when things are imminent. हर 2-3 घंटे में निकाल दो 3-4 बस्ट, एक मैगजीन खाली कर दो. And that is technically counted as a ceasefire violation.
Okay, so let me just look. I need to bring in Air Marshal Kapoor Saab also. Air Marshal, the question is this: the more you sort of string it out, the more you wait, the more Pakistan gets time to prepare, perhaps even move, sensitive targets and take them from one place to the other. For example, if you were asked to target, let's say, X or Y, sensitive office, residence, call it what you want to, वहाँ तो अब कोई होगा ही नहीं. There may not be anybody. They might be in bunkers. You might have given them time to even sort of, at some level or the other, be prepared with a response. Is this the right way to think?
See, to put in perspective things which you have been asking, last about 10 days, our media has gone on overdrive. It's moving on the fifth gear, sixth gear, as if the war is about to begin at any time. And it is more hyped because of the Pakistani politicians, many of them who have called at 2:30 at night, press meet to say that in next 24 to 36 hours, like General Rahul was saying, that there is much more panic amongst their own cadre. Now, to put in perspective, both in 2016 and 2019, the recent conflicts which happened, there was an internal pressure in Pakistan, internal pressures. The political, the Nawaz Sharif and the government army was not getting along well in 2016, and Imran Khan had taken over in 2018, and the things were not so good, and FATF was imposed financial. So these actions. And similar situation is the internal. India was not prepared at all for this kind of a contingency. Now we would need time, and a lot of things have changed from 2022 onwards since Russia-Ukraine war. Now, your channel was showing Hafiz Saeed is hiding in a congested area in Lahore. The videos have come out. Now, it is a totally new dynamics. It's like Hamas, keeping their assets in congested, and so now it is totally different tactics to take out targets which are, because as a responsible nation, we do not want any collateral damage. We do not want any civilians to be injured or killed. So some sort of a restraint is put. So the target selection, the weapon selection, the satellite imagery, the coordination with the other...
No, but that's precisely what I'm saying, Chief Saab. If supposing, let's assume that we have locked on. I'm just saying, let's assume we've locked on to someone like Hafiz Saeed. We know where he is. If you keep delaying it, they'll move him. They'll also want to move him. Then we'll keep redrawing, reassessing, going back to the strategy board. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir.
See, it is not like that. It is like a game of chess. The table is laid. You have to make moves, and it is called escalatory. So it will begin with a small strike somewhere, and thereafter the retaliatory action is catered for. And then response to that is catered, and same the other side would be catered. So it is not that we are preparing for first strike. We have to cater till 25th day. We need ammunition, we need spares, we need weapons, we need infrastructure, we need oil supplies, we need other things, logistics arrangements, we need the whole. It is not like that. It is just not you begin today and after 4 days we don't know where to do. And most of the equipment which the Air Force has its linkages with abroad, and with the two ongoing conflicts both in Middle East and in Europe, the suppliers are similar. So there is a back-end work, I'm sure, must be going on to check on our stocks, to check on our this thing. The second aspect is that the Chinese equipment which the Pakistanis are having has never been tested in any conflict till now. The other platforms, of course, have been used. So the Chinese too must be wary, because their J-10s, JF-17s and all would be, if the conflict takes place, would be put to the operational use first time. And India from 2019 has grown tremendously. They are aware. We have operationalized our own LCS cordon. The LCS were not there in 2019. Now we have a frontline Indian-made LCS cordon whose spares are not a problem. The BrahMos is there, the Rafales are there, the other S-400s are there, our own radar infrastructure which the DRDO has created. So all these things, we have internal mechanism. Now, the logistics arrangement for your viewers and this thing, some factories in Odisha, some factories in Hyderabad, some factories in Trivandrum, some factories in Lucknow. So we have to, logically also plan this thing, the space, the rotables, the equipment, the servicing, associated equipment which is needed. This all have to be put in place
Okay.
for an
Colonel Dini, is the delay therefore not a disadvantage? It actually in some ways advantages in India. Would you say that?
Oh, absolutely, Rahul. I think I agree with both General Dhillon and Air Marshal Kapoor. And I just want to add on to that why I consider it as an advantage to India that we are delaying this response as much as possible. First and foremost, there is no time period that we are. If you take a decision late, that we will lose out on some initiative. It's not. It is our choice of timing. So that is number one. And secondly, as Air Marshal Kapoor mentioned, we are a responsible nation. There is a process in place. And why I say so is definitely a punitive action is required. But also we want that there should be no escalation, which is within our control. So there has to be, a proper, way of getting into what we want to do. Now, for that, we require time. It is not that we can just go there, carry out some action, and then whatever retaliation comes, we are not planned for it. So whatever we do, it has to be done with the proper preparation. So that takes time. Secondly, we must also understand that the fact that why I call it an advantage. Pakistan has already mobilized in many parts. They are moving their forces from one place to another. They are in a state of high alert. Now, how much can a nation remain in high alert for how many days? We have not done anything, but they are already in a state of high alert. Like you mentioned, they're already moving their forces. We are just observing. Now, that mobilization also, Rahul, costs. It costs. A country which is already, can't fight for more than 10 days or 7 to 10 days. We have already given them a cost of almost 3 to 4 days of, of actual war because they've been mobilized for last 10 days. So now they don't know exactly where we are going to strike. So I think it's a good strategy that we are going it in a calibrated, calculated, and coordinated manner. As General Dhillon said, these are not decisions taken on the basis of emotions. These are decisions taken based on pure analysis, pure plans, pure capabilities, and what exactly is the impact we want. So that will require time, and I think it's advantage India because we do not have any kind of restriction on us as far as time is there. We can take our own time. Let them be on that in that same mode. Let them keep moving their forces. At the same time, we must know they are moving their forces from their counter-terrorism grid will also have an impact there. So all in all, I think wait and watch is the best policy.
Okay, General Dhillon, let me come back to you because it's a very important point that Colonel Dini has also made. He's saying that when you tire out Pakistan, you are going to impose costs psychologically, economically, and of course materially. How much of a cost will all of this, keeping Pakistan in this state of readiness, actually impose? Can you break it down? Are there any figures, any numbers that you can help us with here?
Rahul, firstly, just to clarify on the last point also, action like this, where whole world is watching you, there will be a world opinion, as I said earlier, and MEA will give a note that the world opinion of the countries which can assist Pakistan directly or indirectly have been taken on board, and now we go. And second is, it's not that we go and then like Marshal
No, but
Kapoor was
General,
saying,
on
then
that point, you see, I'll tell you what my fear is. My fear is the more we sort of wait, the more we wait, all these clever countries like America, the European Union, OIC, Saudi Arabia, they'll start putting pressure. It's a kind of emotional blackmail that they'll do. Arey, you guys are nuclear powers, you shouldn't be doing this, you behave morally, you be responsible. Already you are seeing J.D. Vance, Vice President of America, his statements, etc., etc. My fear is, Indians are quite susceptible to what the world thinks of them. And again, we will put away all our plans. We might carry out some odd strike here and there, and that will be it.
But if we go in for a military option without taking these countries on board, which you are referring to, there is going to be a bigger problem tomorrow. And second is we got to be catering for, as Air Marshal Kapoor was saying, retaliatory strike and then our counter strikes. Notwithstanding all that, the point which you are making, that is it beneficiary to go now or is beneficiary to go after considered decisions are made? Both have their advantages and disadvantages. But a national response like this, where diplomatic efforts, political, economic, are involved, in my opinion, wait and watch. Let them be tired out, as Kaldini was saying, and not tired out on their eastern border, which is our western border. They have been stretched from Afghanistan border to Iran border, from KPK to Balochistan, from Sindh to Cholistan to Pakistan occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. This is the stretch of their military already. In addition, now they are coming in and replacing or superimposing on the Rangers on their eastern border. And once they deploy, then we would know exactly what is where, and our options maybe 10 as of now. Then we can home on to the first and second, and others will be keeping as the retaliatory options. So in my opinion, it's better to wait and watch. And when I say wait and watch, you never know, the wait might end tonight, or it might end after 7 days.
Well, that is true, of course. We don't know what is being planned. It could happen right as we are speaking. But Ahmad Shah Saab, I have to ask you this because, you know, the 10-day window is what we saw opened when we did Balakot, I think, 10 or 12 days. I think Uri was 10 days, I think Balakot was 12. So we're in that window period. Now, obviously, and I have to ask you, do you think we should be doing something like we did last time? The Prime Minister has said it will be visible. He said it will be very soon. Time is of the essence. Amit Shah has said, chun chun ke marenge. And all of these sort of also point towards what kind of action India is contemplating. Can you sort of break this down for us, decode this language?
My appreciation is why it is different from 2016 and 2019 is that the top leadership has made a statement in each of their telecasts and public sermons, is that not only the people who have attacked, but the people behind the scene and the people who are controlling this time would not be left. So it's a tacit indication for ISI and the army. Now, if you notice, both in after Balakot, who did the press brief for us in South Block? It was not Raksha Mantri, it was not the Air Chief, it was nobody. It was the External Affairs Minister. The Foreign Secretary gave the briefing after Balakot strike. Now, if you recall, when Honorable Prime Minister cut short his Saudi Arabia trip, he landed in Delhi. Who went and received him? It is the Foreign Secretary. And the meeting which took place at Pahalgam, the visual, the pictures that have come, who was briefing him? The Foreign Secretary. So what I am trying to imply, the government's perspective is that it is the external affairs which will be spearheading the whole thing, forming the world opinion, leveraging our equation with others, leveraging India's foreign equation with all those countries who can help it at this time, because each country has its own pluses, which, and like I mentioned the other day on your channel also, it is the time to see who are your real friends. When somebody is in need, it is the time to see who is standing with you. So as far as the diplomacy and external affairs ministry go, this will be a clear thing for them to see at the time of crisis in 2025, when we needed which all countries offered what all help. So that is besides. But the point which you are putting out also has a merit, because at this stage, a lot of other countries which were not speaking earlier have started to, put in their words for India, Pakistan, because the time is elapsing. So they are, because Pakistan is going crying that,
yes,
help us. There is no proof. The new logic which I am seeing now in media is that Pakistanis are saying that there is no proof to connect that we did Pahalgam. So if there is no proof, we will go to International Court of Justice. All this happened in this thing. All this happened when we took away the most favored nation status. See, every action, if you say 2016, 19 and now 2025, a very important part has been cut. Now in this time, the Indus water has been removed. So we are clipping the wings. See the price rise in Pakistan. A common man.
No, I understand that, but okay. So no, I understand that there is pain, and every day that we continue to prolong this mobilization means that Pakistan also has to mobilize, and that's costing them. There is no doubt about this. But Colonel Dilli, the point is that if you delay and you prepare and you tell the world that, we are preparing and that's why we're dealing, then the expectation also rises, doesn't it? People say, ab to kuch bahut hi bada hone wala, it's going to be something really big because we are really preparing. This is not just releasing a couple of missiles from a plane and coming back, targeting some jungle readout of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, etc. This time it's going to be big. We've already heard that the backers of these terrorists will also be struck. So people are expecting perhaps targets that are military targets, deep state targets, ISI targets. Now all of this builds anticipation. You have to also cater to that, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, Rahul. I think the anticipation was always there, because of our own track record. Right after Uri, we did our surgical strike. Right after Pulwama, we did our Balakot. So we ourselves have, raised the bar that everybody, not only within the country, I think international audience also, they expect that India will take a very strong action, and especially against terrorism. What has happened is that, look at what happened with Israel and Hamas. When Hamas did what they did on October 7th, the whole world was with Israel, and look from where the war is still continuing. So I think the expectation will always be there, Rahul. We have to live with that expectation. That is nothing which we can do about it. That is, as I said, primarily because of our own track record, and also I think because of our own growing stature. Now I do agree that international pressure is very important, but I also believe that for us as Indians or Indian government today will not succumb to so much of international pressure, for what we have to do. I think those days have gone, and I think the world also knows it. They will do the usual diplomatic language and all those stuff. But what we have to do, I think we will do. And I don't think we are expecting somebody to come and help us in any ways, either material wise or even at the UN, because UN and all is totally, nobody, is bothered about what statement is coming out of UN. See, Russia and Ukraine, the war is still on. Everybody will fight what they want. As the old saying, might is right. That is the kind of, generally the world is in that state.
Right.
So I don't think international pressure is a big factor for our delaying. I wouldn't call delaying. I would rather say the choosing the right time.
Kinetic restraint.
Yeah.
Kinetic restraint. Okay. Well, viewers, thank you for watching. Gentlemen, thank you for giving your perspectives. In part one of this show, of course, we talked about the merits of kinetic action, and in this part of the show we have talked about the merits of kinetic restraint. So you've got a whole 360 picture on the two options, broad options before India, and the merits in both. I leave it at this. Thank you for watching.
Presented by
Punitive action mean firing a few projectiles towards the Dushman, or should it be more complete, comprehensive dismantling of the enemy establishment, dismembering them altogether? Not time bound but result driven, and the focus is dismantling this enemy establishment. We'll talk more on that, but first up, let's bring you up to speed on the latest investigation details. Where has the investigation gone forth so far? There's been a lot of activity. The NIA DG has been in Pahalgam in Baisaran Valley. The NIA team was also present there. Now, police sources are telling CNN News 18, 90 overground workers have been arrested under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act in Jammu and Kashmir after the Pahalgam attack. So, nearly 2,500 were rounded up, but out of that, about 90 of them have been arrested. NIA sources further have told CNN News 18 that it is using advanced forensic methods including satellite imagery, drone footage and detailed witness accounts including those from victims' families, the khacharwalas or pony operators, vendors and local workers to digitally reconstruct the entire crime scene of the Pahalgam terror attack and also to determine the routes that they had taken. Now, NIA sources have further told CNN News 18 that the agency combined technical and human int to build a high-resolution 3D model of the scene, helping investigators trace every movement and bullet trajectory linked to the attack. The 3D mapping process uses technologies like LiDAR, drone surveillance and photogrammetry to create high-resolution spatial models offering investigators precise tools for scene reconstruction and courtroom presentation. Now, sources have further said that the Pahalgam investigation is uniquely challenging due to its civilian focus and proxy warfare dynamics. And unlike the 26/11 Mumbai attacks or the Pulwama bombing, this case does not easily allow Bharat to rally international consensus. Sources also reveal that the terrorists involved in the 2024 Gagangir attack were linked to the Pahalgam incident. At least the mastermind, the person who planned and executed it on ground, Abu Hashim Musa, has been linked. However, no connection has been found suggesting that they came from the Chenab Valley side. Investigators believe that they did not travel via that route. Now, detailed communication analysis has so far found that the terrorists did not speak to any locals and used encrypted channels to communicate. Sources have further added. Sources revealed that NIA investigators are scanning the communication records of relatives and families of local terrorists in search of any leads. Combing operations are currently underway. They are in hot pursuit and they have been surrounded. It's a matter of time, but yes, it is testing our patience. Officials suspect that the terrorists used thick forest cover to reach the Baisaran Valley, and it's the same forest cover that they have used to escape. It's quite dense. The NIA's probe underscores systematic approach combining forensic science, digital tracking and on-ground intelligence. While progress has been made in identifying suspects and cross-border links, challenges remain in neutralizing the terrorists and addressing certain systemic security lapses. And we'll come to that in a bit. Now, Pakistan is a safe haven to these Pahalgam plotters. Saifullah Qasuri, Lashkar's deputy chief. Abu Hashim Musa, Lashkar POK's top commander. Muhammad Nawaz, Lashkar's POK recruitment commander. Abdul Rafa Rasool, Hizbul's operational commander. Abdullah Khalid, Lashkar's field commander. Idris Shaheen, he is a Huji commander. Nearly 20 handlers and terror commanders are operating from Pakistan, while 33 active commanders are currently in Jammu and Kashmir, especially in and around the Kashmir Valley. Bharat has sent to Pakistan nearly 20 letters, rogatories and judicial requests, detailed dossiers, even DNA samples of terrorists related to various terror attacks, including 26/11, Pathankot, Pulwama, Nagrota. But Islamabad so far has chosen to ignore all this evidence. Sharing details of individual cases in which Pakistan has been made aware of attacks originating from its soil, agency sources have told CNN News 18 that these terror masterminds are allowed to operate from a safe haven in Pakistan. Hafiz Saeed, Lashkar-e-Taiba co-founder, he is in a safe...
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. The face-off continues between India and Pakistan. It's drill versus drill and video versus video. The Indian Navy is test-firing missiles in the Arabian Sea. It has issued a warning to Pakistani ships. Enter at your own peril. We'll discuss India's military preparations and how it's part of a three-pronged strategy. In Pakistan, politicians are losing the plot. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is now laying claim to the legacy of the Indus civilization. Amid these